Welcome. Welcome back. In our previous videos, we learned Boolean indexing, which is the foundation of data filtering in Pandas. So we saw how to filter data using conditions like the df and then the column, and then you give a particular, use an operator to decide what you want to filter by, right? And we also saw how to combine and or operators, right? But let's be honest, Boolean indexing can get messy. So just look at this particular code I have here, right? We want to see athletes whose age is greater than 25, and then the height is greater than 180, and who got medal and are not from the United States. You see the lines of codes you need to carry this out. Almost four lines of code. So for that, we are going to learn something new today, which is the query method. The query method is a cleaner, more readable or it's a cleaner, more readable alternative that makes your code look like just plain English, right? I think before we get started, let's get our data frame here. Seems, uh, yeah, forgot to import pandas. Let's get the data frame here. All right. So what will be covered today includes what a query is and why you use it, the basic syntax of the query, using multiple conditions in query, using variables with the art, when to use query versus when to use the Boolean indexing. So what is a query? A query, the query method is Pandas' way of letting you write conditions as strings that look like SQL or plain English, right? Unlike the little bit complex syntax that Boolean index has, that you have to use the square brackets and the rest, and you have to call on the particular column, call on the data frame, call on the column. The query makes it sound and look like plain English, or the way you know how SQL is. For that's for those that have that know SQL. So, for instance, look at the problem with Boolean index. You are calling on df, right? And this is one of the reasons why some students find it difficult to understand Boolean index. You are calling on df like 3 times just to use two conditions, right? The df, you repeat df twice because you need to call on df and point at the column and the data frame you are trying to filter each time you do that. So this is repetitive and can get a bit complex if you have multiple conditions. Now, if this was like 4 conditions, that's basically like 5 dfs in the whole code, or 5 different df inside the conditions. So, but for query, to do something like this in query, all you need to do is just call on the query, right? And then pass what you want to be carried out the condition, just like in plain English, right? It's going to be age greater than df.query age greater than 30 and medal equals to gold. As you can see, you no need to repeat DLs and the subsetting for the columns as well. You just write it plainly like in SQL or in Excel. So this is how query works, right? So what are the key benefits of using query instead of Boolean index? Readability. The code reads like plain English and it's easy to understand what is going on there, right? So there is less code, no repetitive data references, and you don't need to write multiple lines of codes in most cases, right? There are fewer errors, less chance of missing parentheses, right? it's also dynamic, easy to build queries from variables. We'll see some of this in our examples. So let's start with the basic query syntax, right? So let's look at something. Let's look at a simple comparison like the one we've seen at the top there. Say you want to see athletes that are older. So you are looking at df.query. Let's say athletes. Uh, let's look at simple comparison. Let's go with the first one. Let's do greater than, right? So let's say we want to look at athletes that are greater, whose age is greater than 30. So with query, it's as simple as saying this. Sorry, let's use the single. Uh, so you have athletes whose age is greater than what's it called, 30. As you can see, it's as simple as this. Now, if you were to do this with Boolean index, you know how it is. It's going to be something like this here, right? You put the df and then you call on the greater than 30. But this is very simple. You can just say df.query age greater than 30. It's as simple as that. So that's how the query works. Let's say if you want to see the equal to, right, in query, let's call this equal to. If you would like to see the equal to, let's say we want to see athletes that got gold. So it's df.query and simple medal equal to gold, right? So as you can see, you can take a look at the name and the medal, right? So it's very, very simple. But the difference you need to see here is if the entry is the data type of the entry is a string, you'd have to wrap it in the quotation. Now, what you need to know is if you use a single quotation in the full statement, in what you wrapped the full query statement, then the string that appears inside the query would have to use the opposing, the other quotation. So if you use single quotation outside, you are using double quotation inside, right? Inside the entries string. So that's what's happening here. That's why we have double strings here. So, so it's very, very simple to use query. And we can also take a look at the not equal to operator, right? Let's say we want to see as usual teams that are not from the USA. So it's going to be df.query and then team simple not equal to what? United States. And remember, this is a string, so I'm wrapping it in its own quotation before the outside quotation, right? So it's that simple. It's that simple to carry this out actually. So as you can see clearly, this is easier than Boolean index and more straightforward. As you can see, that's all. You have, with just this line of code, you've seen teams that are not from United States. You don't need to call on df team and then put this, right? Call on df and then df team and put that. So this one is cleaner and less complex, especially when you start looking at multiple conditions, right? So let's compare this side by side, even though they are almost the same. We've seen df, if this was Boolean, right, it's going to be, sorry, df age greater than 30. And then if it was a query, it's going to be query age greater than 30. So this is basically the same thing, right? This is the same thing. We are looking at the difference. This is the Boolean operator in Boolean indexing, and this is query. Okay, I didn't close this. This is query method, right? So as you can see, Boolean, you need to call on the data frame and the column, and then use the square bracket to wrap everything in. So that's how that is. So let's look at the in operator in query, right? Sorry, I wanted this as a markdown. The in operator, right? So in query, instead of using multiple all conditions are as you can see here, we've established in Boolean, that using is in method would help you just have a list of entries you want to filter by, and then you just input the is in method there, right? So in Boolean, in query rather, in query, let's look at this in Boolean. Say for instance, we are trying to see countries that athletes that are from United States and or Russia and China rather. Let's look at athletes that are from Russia and China. So in Boolean, to even type it out, I feel that's too I'm lazy to type. Let's do that, right? It's going to be use a pipe and then df team, and like we've established, you can just keep using a chain to chain everything, right? It will keep going. It will keep going. If you want to add another country here, you can just introduce the pipe and then you add another country. So like we said, this might end up being complex with time. So using query, in query, the other way rather you can do this with Boolean index is saying df thing dot is in, and then here let's see if we can just pass a list without creating a list on its own, right? So you will not need to put the pipe continuously. Oh, what did I forget? Uh, yeah. So yeah. So as you can see, using is in, you can just keep adding the country instead of using the pipe continuously. Do you have US, United States? Is it United States? Is it like this? I think it's like this. Yeah. So you can just keep adding the conditions for the filtering here instead of using the pipe, right? So, but this is for Boolean index. If you'd like to do this with query, which is a lot more cleaner using query, the way you do this is that you just say df.query and then you call on team in. So the idea of query is that everything has to be how everything sounds like plain English. China, and then maybe United States, right? So that's it, right? Let's comment this out so that you can see that it works. Yeah, so this is how the query method works. Taking a look at the is in, in Boolean indexing, you say df, it's almost the same. Df dot after calling on df twice, and then you say is in, you list your entries you are filtering by. While in query, you just it's just a plain English. Team in Russia, China, United States in a list. You can keep adding to the particular filtering. So you don't need to keep listing. So that's in operator in query. So you can see there are more examples. For instance, if you like to see, let's say, pop sports, let's say we are trying to see sports that are popular in Olympics. Let's say sports in. All you need to do is to keep listing the entries you have in hand. So let's say swimming, athletics, gymnastics, right? So pop.head will give you those particular sports only, gymnastics and swimming and athletics. Now, like we've established before you do any of this, you should have known the columns your data frame contains. I know already we've done multiple classes with this. That's why I didn't bother doing df.info and probably df.head to understand the data frame properly. So you can go through it. It has name, sex, age, height, weight, team, NOC, and the rest. All right, so that's in query, right? So let's look at our next subtopic, which is multiple conditions, just like in what's it called? Uh, Boolean indexing, multiple conditions. Say, just like we did before, we want to see young gold medalists, right? Call this young gold, and we'll say is df.query. Same thing, statement in a string, age less than 25, and medal will be equals to gold. Remember, recall, like I said, if you have an entry that is a string data type inside your statement, you have to wrap that statement in its own quotations, which will be the opposite of what you have on the full statement, right? So if I used single quotation for the full query statement, the entry that is a string data type inside the statement will be double quotation. Likewise, if it was double outside, the entry inside will be single quotation. So let's look at our young, how many people are below, what's it called, 25 and got gold. There are 250 out of the whole. How many people do we have in the entries we have in the, we have 2014 entries. But the issue with these 2014 entries is it the is it the number of athletes that performed in the participated in the Olympics, or because it seems some athletes had participated in multiple sports. So let's say since the ID should be unique, we can use the ID to check how many athletes do we have altogether. I think it's going to be df ID dot unique. Let's look at the unique entries first. All right. So yeah, you have 1,846 athletes. Even though the entries is 2014 entries, the athletes you have is 1,846 because you know it's Olympics. So and you have multiple events. Maybe some participated in uh, a swimmer might have participated in multiple events, the swimming events. Uh, all these men's rowing and swimming and the rest. You can have one particular athlete participating in multiple categories or events. So that's why it's different. So this is the number of athletes we have, even though it's 2014 entries, you have 1,846 athletes using the unique ID of each athlete, right? So let's continue. We digressed a bit. We stopped at looking at the young medalists that got gold, right? Meaning 25, below 25, and the gold medal. So that's one of the ways you use and. Mind you, I didn't mention that this is the and operator, right? This is the and operator. We started with the and operator, and operator. So we got the young medalist that got gold, right? And operator, right? So now, mind you, for the and operator, you can either write it out, spell out the word, or you can use the ampersand as well, and it will still give you the same thing. It doesn't matter. But sticking uh, to it being like just plain English text, I think I like it when I write it out as and. All right, so let's um let's take a look at another and use another and condition. Let's say we want to see athletes who are tall and heavy, as we've seen before. It's basically tall. Let's call it tall heavy, and it should be equals to df dot query. See, it doesn't take much to type out uh, the code when you're using and wait when you are using the query method instead of boolean operator. So it's very, very easy to type this out. You are done. Name, name, height, weight. Let's even look at the sports they participated in. Let's see the first thing, right? So as you can see, you have athletes who are tall and heavy. Some did athletics. I know definitely there will be a lot of basketball here, right? So we have beach volleyball, water polo. So this is how you go with the and operator. Now let's look at the or, and if you want to, you can use it with. Let's just go. Let's look at or operator. Let's do this. Say for instance, like we did with Boolean indexing, you are trying to see athletes that got gold or silver, right? So it's very, very simple. Let's call this gold, silver. So you call on df.query and then you pass medal, tell it to be equals to gold, and then simple without having to put the df medal column, blah, 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 or medal equal to silver. You have your data frame. Let's just see the whole thing. Simple. So you see that the metals you have here will only be gold and silver because you use the OR operator, right? Because you use the OR operator. And now in OR operator, you can also use the pipe instead of writing out the word, or you can use the pipe to do it like I did here. So I need to still give you the same thing. But like I said, let me write out the word before it that way. That's the OR operator. We can also see something else in, or maybe you can see athletes that took part in either swimming or athletics only. You want to see only those that did swim, that swim ath- athletes. So it's going to be df dot query, same thing. This time you are calling on the sports column equal to, since we are dealing with an entry that is string data type, swim or sports equal to athletics. Right now, take note of something. As you are, I keep saying the data type. If the data type of the entry is string, you will not need to, you will need to use a quotation mark on those strings, not on the names of the columns. The columns, the quotation outside the whole statement will suffice, but you are not wrapping the names of the columns in quotation. It's only the entries you are filtering by that you wrap with quotations. So we will get swim or athletics dot head. Take a look at it. As you can see, you have only swimming and athletics sports in your data frame. So that's how all works. If you've gone through the Boolean indexing video, it should come easy for you, right? So let's look at using and or, right? Using and or. So let's say you want to use and or. Let's look at the age. Oh, sorry, I didn't type this. Using and or, right? So let's say we want to have a query that uses and or like we did in the other one. Let's say we want to see athletes who are taller than 180 centimeters and who are older than 25 uh, and they got gold, right? They got gold, or what's it called? Gold or silver. Or let's say artists that are older than 25 and are 180, taller than 180, but they got gold or silver. So the way you do this is that you type on age, you give the age condition, and then the height condition. Straightforward. You put another and then this time you are looking at two conditions actually. You want to see where either medal is equal to gold, or medal is equal to silver, right? So yeah, this is returning an error. Sorry. Yeah. Forgot to close the one that has two conditions in it, right? So the age has to be greater than 25 and then height has to be greater than 180. The reason why you are wrapping this in parentheses is that this is a whole different condition entirely because it's checking one or two here on its own. This has to be checked so before it will now be wrapped. This one can pass, this will pass, has to pass, this has to pass, and then one of these is okay, right? So that's how you wrap the whole thing in the and or operator. All right, so with that, we are going to stop here. The video is long enough. So when to use query and when do you use Boolean? So you want to learn how to choose the right tool. Use query when you want readable code. You want it to be easy, not something complex that one has to count how many, what column is being looked at, the subset and the rest. You want to build dynamic filters. You are working in Jupyter notebooks because it's easier there. You are writing exploratory analysis. That's when you use query. You use Boolean when you are using Lambda functions, right? We'll see Lambda functions, I think, for this class. I don't think if we've dealt with Lambda. Oh, no, yeah, we did functions. We've definitely done Lambda. So when you're dealing with Lambda functions, you use Boolean. You need maximum performance. When you're working with complex custom functions, you are chaining the filtering with other methods, right? So it's easier to use. Let's say after you've filtered, you like to see the head unique, just one line of code. So it's easier to use Boolean indexing, right? So that's all. I think on your own, it will be because the video is getting too long. We didn't talk about string methods here. I think we missed it too in the Boolean index. How to use string methods in Boolean indexing. I'm talking about str. Say for instance, you have df team, right? We are trying to use string to look at something. It can be str dot starts with, and then you give it some letter, say A, for instance, or U. So this will filter for countries that start with U. Example, the United States. It give you the data of those countries. So we didn't see the string methods start with, ends with, contains. So you should actually think about reading it. Start with something like ends with, contains, and the rest. You should look at this on your own. You should read on this on your research and read on it on your own. So with that being said, I think we've learned a lot here and on the Boolean index, and we can call it a day. Thank you for watching. Bye.